All right, so welcome to Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes. This is Josh,
That's Wes.
and I almost forgot how to do this, buddy.
Yeah, we took a little break because a little junior arrived in my household.
Speaking of Little Junior, we're gonna be talking more about Gary Stewart today.
Yeah, that's right. We're not going to talk about the song Little Junior at all, but we are going to talk about oh, let's see. All right, well, we're going to kick it off with a little bit of aptly named Gary
Yeah,
album.
we're gonna start today with Gary Stewart's self-titled album Gary, which was produced by Roy Dea for RCA back in 1979, in February of 79. So we've been using Jimmy McDonough's I Am from the Honky Tonks about Gary Stewart, and in the book it says it was released on Valentine's Day 1979. Gary has little else to recommend it. Stewart contributed only two songs. One more, a good drinking song written by Bob Melton that doesn't feel fully realized, and Everything a Good Little Girl Needs, which is a wince inducing as the title suggests. Stewart covers a great Leon Payne song best known by Hank Williams' Lost Highway, something he should have nailed and fails to engage. Zero excitement. There's not much to say about the rest. It's all kind of rote Gary sings, the players play. I guess you could say it's a fair album, decent enough, but if you're a Stewart fan, that's the kiss of death. One thing you don't expect Gary to be is boring, and aside from the three glittering jewels, this is one forgettable collection. Shady Streets climbed to 66 on the country charts, while the poppy annoyance Mazel only hit 75.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see how we feel about that with what Jimmy says. I have my thoughts on this album, and we'll dive in, song by song like we always do. But yeah, clear to see what Jimmy thinks, and Jimmy's generally agree with what he has to say about Gary's albums and music. But yeah, well, who's on this album, Josh?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, that is obviously Jimmy's word. So we'll talk about how we feel about some of the songs. But on the album, we have. We'll just start with bass was Henry Strzelecki again and Mike Leach. Drums we had Buddy Harmon, Hayward Bishop, and Jerry Kerrigan. Electric guitar Del Sellers and Reggie Young. Harmonica Terry McMillan. Keyboards Bob Emmons. Piano Bobby Wood and Hargus Pig Robbins. Producer again Roy Day. Rhythm guitar Jerry Shook, and rhythm guitar and bass guitar Harold Bradley. And on the pedal steel we had Hal Rugg and Weldon Merrick. And then backing vocals we had Bobby Hardin, Dennis Wilson out of the Beach Boys, Dottie Delanibus, Sonny Throckmorton, and Thomas Countess.
Not really Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys, right?
No, I said not of the Beach
Oh, okay.
Boys.
I was like, no way. I would have caught that fact. We had that discussion before. Well, so kind of the usual suspects, more or less.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of the original people on there.
Yeah, which is interesting because I don't think this album quite has the feel of some of the other RCA albums. But well, I don't know if that has to do with the musicians necessarily, though.
A little bit. I think maybe it's a little bit of the time it was done as well, and just Gary's state of being during this time.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so we can go ahead and talk about the album. The first track is Mazel, and this was written by Russ Kirkpatrick. And Jimmy said this was an annoyance pop song. I disagree actually a lot with Jimmy. This actually become one of my favorites. I really love this song. And say what you will about Roy Day's production, but I think he was really good with sequencing on the albums, and this is a great opener. I will say, all of these records that he's produced has a great opening track.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Um, I wish the whole album kind of had this same feel about it, but yeah, pretty strong overall. I mean, I feel like I like it because it's Gary singing it, and it's a good opener and it's catchy, but um, it's pretty poppy too. I mean, I think in general it's we're taking a bit of a poppier approach here, but I don't mind it. I guess I think you're probably maybe a little higher on it than me. What do you really like about it? What's really stood out to you lately? You said it's become kind of one of your favorites.
I really like the way it just comes in and like the acoustic guitar, and I think it's really catchy. I think it's you know it's rock and pop a little bit, and it's a little southern rock, and who's gonna star in your movie, Mazel? I think the lyrics are good. It's an interesting song. It's different than a lot of Gary songs, and I don't know. It's just fun. I think it starts the record off, and you're like, this is fun. I like this song.
That's true. I mean, I think a lot of these songs, for the most part, kind of sound like Gary's having a little bit of fun, which I appreciate. Um, and I mean, I think his singing continues to go in a little bit of a different direction, the further and further we get. And a lot of times I like it, and I like it on this song in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great opener. I don't think this is an annoying song at all. So I don't know. Weird to me. That's a weird take, but whatever. Um, Track two, Shady Streets, and we're recording this on a Sunday, Wes, and shadows falling on a Sunday afternoon. This one was written by Billy Ray Reynolds, Dan Toller, and Dickie Betts.
Yep, Mr. Dickie Betts. Yeah, I was just thinking, shadows falling like that. There's a couple of songs that have that particular line. I don't know why that stands out to me. I think of a Warren Zevon song where he says shadows are falling, and then the rest of the song kind of goes. But sort of a dark vibe about this song. I guess I didn't know Dickie Betts wrote, songs that were this sad.
Yeah, he has his own version on one of his records too. And yeah, it kind of reminds me of Snow is Falling in Manhattan. But in the book, Jimmy says the album's second outstanding song is Shady Streets. Gary had come by the song hanging around with the Allman Brothers. Both Dickie Betts and Greg Allman had become acquaintances since their chance airport meetings years earlier. Betts was sitting around with songwriter Billy Ray Reynolds and guitar player Dangerous Dan Toller when the trio broke into Shady Streets, a song they'd written together. As Gary recalled, they were sitting around playing, guitar pulling, and I said, I like that. I'd like to cut that. This mournful, affecting ballad about a wandering couple grabs you from the opening couplet. Shadows falling on a Sunday afternoon. We go walking. Seems like the only thing we have to do. Are these two winners? Losers? Someday the sun will shine just for me and you, he sings, and you want to believe it. Shady streets and shiny shoes. For Stewart, dreaming is the important part of the journey, not the destination. Now 35, Stewart already knew plenty about turning away from opportunity, turning his back on success, and he sounds like he's had enough. That's crazy. I'm about to be 35 and you're 35, so that's interesting. That's when he recorded this album.
Yeah, I was just listening to another podcast, oh, you can probably remember the name of it, but the Neil Young podcast that's going on right now by Aquarium Drunkard. Um, they were interviewing, I guess, one of your pals, and he was talking about listening to albums, kind of when the artist was the age that you are, and kind of consuming that medium and thinking about it, and it does change the way you feel about it. So yeah, wow. To think about that is actually kind of fascinating because it is a certain. I mean, I know how I feel at this point in life, and things are a little bit different for me because I have a baby now, and that's new, but. Um, yeah, that makes me feel a little bit different about some of these songs, actually.
Yeah, same. I didn't put that together. And it also says a little bit more. The studio cut is sublime with beautiful guitar from Reggie Young. He's so precise, said Steve Henson. But in live performances, it became something worthy of Van Morrison. Gary had played on the road with the Toman brothers, Russ Toman trading licks with Gary. We do it as a 15-minute jam, said Stewart. Everybody takes it. Gary would explore the dynamics of the song, whispering some words, and then all of a sudden he would scream some, said Randy Toman. It became a high point of his live sets. And there is actually, I've only found one, but there is a video that's later in his life. It might be with the Drugstore Cowboys, I think, of Gary playing this. And it is a jam. It's like a two-part YouTube video.
I wish this recorded version was that way because it's weird to say this about a Roy Day produced album, but really the biggest downside of this song on this album is the production. I just feel like it cuts it short where it really could have taken off in a lot of ways, and it's such a good ballad. I like the version on the album, but I do feel like it didn't have space to breathe on this record in the way that it seems like it would have live.
Yeah, I could see that, but that's kind of the nature of Gary. He didn't really have jams like as much as he loved the Allman Brothers. It wasn't really on his record, and I don't know. I really love the album version of the song, and if you listen to the Dickie Betts version, it blows it out of the water, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's generally the trend, right? Like, there's only really been one song that we felt like, um, well, I got mine. You're right. We said that Gary's version really wasn't as good as the Ry Cooder cover of that song. But generally, Gary always kind of blows the covers out of the water because it's Gary Stewart, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I sent you that last night, where I found on the Country Music Hall of Fame they have a digital archive where there's an interview that I'd never seen with Bob Allen, who was a reporter, I guess, or a music writer, and it's just him and Gary talking on a tape recording. It's really remarkable. It was kind of I listened to it last night, and it was kind of hard to believe I was listening to it. It just felt like something unbelievable to exist. And Gary was kind of talking about that because he asked him a lot about the Almond Brothers, which we'll talk more about on Cactus and a Rose. But he said, yeah, Dickie Betts would just sit around till he says 8 at night, but I think he meant 8 in the morning, where they'd come back from shows and just play all night long somehow and keep writing, which kind of checks out with the story he's talking about this song.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to link out to that interview, which I agree. Like they're talking about Cactus and a Rose, and so we'll talk more in depth about it then. But they do talk about the Allman Brothers a lot in that, and yeah, it was amazing what just talking about Dickie Betts and the Allman Brothers and kind of how Gary would get involved. I mean, it's cool. Again, yeah, we don't have to go too in depth, but just the fact that Dickie wrote this. Maybe it was one of those late nights where he was working on it that this one came out. And I'd like to go hear the Dickie Betts version, but I believe you that Gary's version is better. And I think on this album, this is one of the better tracks.
Yeah, you should listen to it. It's pretty different. I'm a big fan of Dickie, so it's not bad at all. It's kind of different. But yeah, I mean I love this song. I wish there was more live recordings. Maybe there is, but I could only find that one. So
Well,
I
it seems like stuff keeps coming out, right? So,
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. So that takes us to track three, The Next Thing You Know. And this was written by Curly Putnam and Sonny Throckmorton. And I thought this was very similar melody to another song here. Maybe Making Believe or Yesterday's Wine. I don't know. Did you notice that?
no, I didn't. I saw your note. I'd have to go back and listen. But at the same time, would it surprise you that they kind of recycle a melody?
No, and I think my brain has so many country songs Rolodexed in it now that I just start picking up on stuff that probably no one else would. But anyways, not quite sure, but I love this song. The organ is really a great touch to it. It's a little different. Jimmy says maybe the bleakest relationship song in Stewart's Au revoir. It begins at love's end and works its way down from there. The next thing you know, our love will be history, a total mystery you can read back home.
Yeah. It's a tearjerker, and I feel like this is the first track, maybe track one. I would argue track one you could say is a honky tonker, but I feel like this one definitely is a sad honky tonk tune that, especially with the keys being played the way they are. I mean, just is there ever a bad Gary Love song, right? I mean, no matter who wrote it, he does it good every time.
No, I don't think so. And Jimmy says Throckmorton and ace background singer Dennis Wilson contribute background vocals. The bridge will fall down and sink in the ocean. Wells, Gary, the Stein swinging oompa tempo providing a strange counterpoint to all the despair. Throckmorton, who penned Middle Aged Crazy for Jerry Lee Lewis among many other hits, was a big fan of Stewart's and played a few shows with him. We played in Texas one time. He played for about an hour and a half, and when Gary got through, he was wringing with sweat. He blew me away. Gary was the hardest working artist I've ever worked with.
What did Bob say whenever we interviewed him? That Gary'd start kicking him in the ass?
Yeah. In the interview, he said, kick him in the hind end.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, this song sounds pretty timeless. I mean, we're starting to get to a little bit of 80ness and some of this coming up, but this song sounds like it really could have been on a Jerry Lee record from the early 70s or something. This song rules on, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on it as well. I think that I agree. We're kind of getting closer and closer to. I mean, we're almost at 1980, and there are some songs on this album that definitely have that feel. But this one, yeah, I think you could put this on any of the Stewart records that we've covered so far, and it would fit right in as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's definitely one of his better songs. And so we started out, I guess depending on who you talk to, 2 out of 3 to me, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but I think 3 out of 3 here. But we get to track 4, which is Everything a Little Girl Needs. And this was written by Gary. This is the only song I know of that Gary wrote that is I'm just going to say this song sucks.
Yeah, I don't know that I hate it as much as you, but it's not very good. And I would certainly agree it's the worst song Gary ever personally wrote. I don't even think that's a contest. This would rank one of the few stinkers that he wrote.
Yeah, I don't get it because, I'm good with, I won't ever listen to the song again. I refuse. And that's how bad it is. And he says it's wince inducing, Jimmy does. And, we talked about Gary's songs being vulnerable and honest, and this one's not. It's cringy. The instrumentation's not very good. Gary's voice is kind of weird on it, and I don't know, maybe it's the chorus that's man, it is cringy. I don't know.
It's still better than a lot of songs I've heard by some musicians in the 80s, let's say that. I know we're not quite there, but may as well be. We'll treat it that way, I guess. And it's definitely cringy. I feel like the way it's played is all wrong too. Like if it was played more for laughs, I could maybe bear it a little more. Like I could see like Mick Jagger singing this song and it being kind of funny, or like Warren Zevon doing it with like a tinge of like irony. But that's so funny. It's like it's Gary Stewart. He should be able to turn gold. Like any piece of coal should turn into a diamond, basically, if you've got a Gary Stewart singing it, and especially if he's writing it. So I don't know why it just doesn't work. It just feels disjointed too. Like what I'm not sure what they were thinking with this one.
No, yeah, I mean you can listen to it to form your own opinion. To me, I think it's a little yeah, it's not something worth revisiting, but anyways, that takes us into track 5, which is The Same Man. And I don't know, Wes, I don't know if you have it with you there, but it says it's just written by Davis on the credits I can find. I don't know.
Give me 2 seconds. I'll go grab the record.
Yeah, while you're
I,
looking at it, I'll talk about it. I just said this one's pretty boring and forgettable. I mean, the pedal still is very similar to another Gary track, but it's not bad. I mean, but it's not doing much for me. I'm not gonna really put this song on. And I guess that is, time for us to talk about. This is another Gary Stewart album that's pretty unavailable. Not on streaming. If you don't have the vinyl, you gotta find a YouTube vinyl rip of it. So yeah, it's definitely not super accessible. I mean, thankfully, the Essential Greatest Hits that's on Tidal has quite a few of the songs from the albums that aren't streaming. So you can listen to Mazel and Well, I don't even think Shady Streets. There's a few from this album that's on the Essential Greatest Hits.
This album does a good job. I'm looking at the back of it. It does a pretty good job of crediting all the musicians, but I don't see any liner notes on the inside. Maybe there were some at some point, but it doesn't say anything about who wrote that song, as a matter of fact, on this, which is kind of interesting. Um, while we're talking about that, maybe the more interesting than the than this track, I do like the album cover for Gary. He's got a cool like sort of like Panama style hat on, nice little blazer, and then the background is really cool. The backside he's in like an old diner with like the final scene of Sopranos, the little like flip thing for the jukebox is on the table.
Yeah.
Um, it's a cool little cover. But no, it doesn't say anything about who wrote it, weirdly enough.
Well, Davis wrote it, whoever that is.
I got a buddy, Davis. I'll just pretend it's him. I don't, that's probably the most, what we just talked about there is probably one of the best things I can say about this track, I suppose. I just don't have a lot to say about it, really. A little forgettable is what I wrote in my notes.
Yeah, you didn't like this one?
No, did you?
Not really, no.
I think that that's the end of the side A too, and then, well, we've got.
I will say this. What's funny is I went to look on YouTube to see if it like credited or there was some comment, and there's like some comment saying this is one of his best songs. Great song. It is interesting because I I don't know, the song's not very good, but I honestly listen to this album again. I don't even really remember the song. That's how memorable it is.
I just listened to it this morning again. I already forgot it.
Yeah. So,
Um,
and that's saying something about Gary because I can recite Shady Streets lyrics off the top of my head right now, but
well, it goes back. I mean, Jimmy was right in that sense. I think the biggest crime this commits is that, yeah, it's a bit boring at times.
yeah. But anyways, that if like I was saying while you're looking that up, you gotta listen to this on vinyl. So that takes us to side B, which is track 6. The Blues Don't Care Who's Got 'Em, and this was written by Dickie Lee and Waylon Holyfield. And this is a fine song. Another one, Gary sounds a lot like Jerry Lee. There's a prominent harmonic. Not bad, but not super memorable. And a decent country song.
Yeah, that's a pretty good start to side B and kind of deceptive because, it's got the Jerry Lee vibes and good harmonica and it's one of the better tracks here in a bit and on this album and I don't know, I enjoy it. It's a little bit more kind of Gary speed, I think, or what I want to hear. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know that anything there's remarkable about it, but compared to some of the stinkers, it's a good return to form, I'd say. Also, I mean, I think I'd rather just go ahead and say like it's hard to talk about some of these songs that just didn't deliver as much, but like I don't really think that's an indictment of Gary. Some of the production choices were a little bit weird, and there were some odd things going on in the studio, as we know, and he was struggling a little bit more, I think. And was this around the time he had had that car wreck, or was that had not happened yet?
It was a little bit after this album.
Yeah, okay, okay. Um, so I mean, can't blame it on that. But I mean, I just think I don't know. Maybe the train was running out of steam a little bit between him and Roy Day, you know?
Yeah, but then that takes us to track 7, which is I've Just Seen the Rock of Ages, written by John Brenton Preston. And in the book, it says a great song would come out of these Kentucky trips, and not one of Gary's, John Preston's I've Just Seen the Rock of Ages. It came from the hills of Kentucky, Virginia state line, the Appalachian Mountains, said Stewart. I played a couple of gigs up there, went to a couple parties, and people were playing that song. Hey, everybody was singing it, and I said, Lord, it sounded like it was a standard 100 years old. And I was like, I want to record this. Tackett said that the party in particular was at a local pot dealer's. 1 mile below Marlowe's. Preston did the song, and Gary said, "Get my recorder." He captured the soulful backwoods spiritual on his little Memorex and promised Johnny he was going to record it. John Brenton Preston was a songwriter and harmonica player from Salyersville, Kentucky, who'd run afoul of the law, probably for drugs. Johnny was just one of those restless souls, said Sonny. When he got out of prison, he went straight to Marlowe's and played in the band for the summer. Marlowe called him Johnny Smoke a Bowl. He had a wooden leg with we would stash our pot in it on the way home. Preston would write a handful of songs for Ralph Stanley, who first cut I've Just Seen the Rock of Ages in 1977. It was one of the first songs cut during sessions for Stewart's next album, 1979's Gary.
Man, I mean, I'm, you know, this is the standout track on this album to me. Um, I actually just when I got back to playing on the radio, I played on the radio the on my show The Gold Rush here on WXNA here in Nashville. I played this song. I've played a couple from this album before, as I've had it for a while. But had to fit this one in. I had to be playing some Gary because we've been talking about him, and I love Gary. And I just got done doing a big long like theme series, and finally broke out of that. And so I just did an all vinyl show, and this is one of the vinyl that I brought with me and played this track. And oh, it's so damn good.
Yeah, and when in the book it also says when Gary hits the high and low notes in the third verse, pine bree blow on the mountains, where forever she will lay. There she'll rest beside the fountain. There she'll sleep beneath the clay. It chills the blood. You forget the other versions of the song, of which there have been many, Stanley's included. I love the song, and when Gary sang it for me because of my roots, I just kept thinking staple singer, said Roy Day. When I got in the studio, I took guitarist Jerry Shook and Del Sellers, and I said, I want to make this like a Staple Singers record. Give me a lick. Day thought it was a whole new direction for Gary, although he was cognizant it was still a religious song, and I'd never get that by him as far as a single. This is what they would tell me. Get somebody to rewrite it and make it a drinking song, said Dave felt it was the greatest performance he'd ever produced. I can sit there all morning and listen to Rock of Ages, he told me. That says something. It does. It sounds like a 70s gospel number. I mean,
Yeah, sure does. Made me wish Gary did more gospel sounding stuff, to be honest.
yeah, and just reading all that, I mean, that was a lot, but it just shows the dichotomy of Appalachia and the South. You got some guy that's run afoul of the law. It's got a wooden leg he stormed pot in, and he's wrote just the remarkable gospel song that's just sounds like it was out of the 1800s or something. I don't even know, man.
What? Okay, so I was always like, what is the Rock of Ages? Do you know?
Yeah, the Rock of Ages was a hymn, and it's kind of just meaning like a biblical, like a deity figure. It's
Hmm,
kind of talking about God or like the ultimate spirit or something.
I see. Okay. Cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a cool song in general and referenced a lot. I mean, oh, what's it's referenced in the Paycheck song, right? I'm the only hell mama ever raised. He talks about his mom singing Rock of Ages, right?
Yeah.
So that's a track that gets a lot of legs and I mean, if I, if it took this album that maybe has a couple songs that don't work to get this one and a couple of, the Dickie Betts one and some of the other tracks we talked about, then fine by me. I mean, not every album has to be, a knockout from start to finish. And this is, if only, if we get only this one even, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as we've talked about, the albums, there's less just like song for song magic. There's some, yeah, I wouldn't even say clunkers, but it's just not as good as some of the other records that we unfortunately, Gary's never made another album after pretty much 77 that was just front to back magic. But, there's a few on here that are top notch.
I'm also not so sure he was interested in really making a great record necessarily. I mean, in his own words, a lot of times it seems like he really just wanted to be on the road and playing music and didn't seem like he was all that interested in making a lot of money. And he really didn't seem like he was all that interested in cutting records either.
Yeah, and something I found interesting in that interview that I was talking about is he said that it's funny. He said he calls them C&W artists that he doesn't or he never played 300 shows a year because it felt like a job and it was a hobby to him. Well, so you'll maybe want to play 100, which I found interesting that he didn't really look at it as a job. And I mean, I think that's the way you should look at it, but I thought that was pretty interesting and like enlightening about Gary.
Yeah, yeah, same. I think that interview was enlightening in general. I mean, that's the mo one of the most I've ever heard a recording of Gary talking, which was kind of I mean, there's a couple out there, but none that are, 45 minutes long that I know
No,
of.
no, the only thing I've ever seen is like a 3-minute news interview, and there's a couple segments of him on some of those country music shows talking. That's really it. So it's kind of crazy. It was super candid too. And so he wasn't really putting on or anything.
They might have been dipping into some of that Okeechobee, but yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well, that takes us to track 8, which is Walk Away, written by Jack Timpchin. I thought this was an odd song, sort of following the vibe here. Not bad, not great. Gary's voice is pretty good on this one, but not a huge fan of the chorus. And, here we got Gary thinking of Mexico again.
Yeah, it's like, is this a Buffett track again? Do we need some rum and a coconut? But it's like a downer song. I'm not sure I'm like, am I supposed to be sad? Am I supposed to be, I guess if you're trying to escape and go to Mexico, you can be sad in that case, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it works in that sense. Yeah, it's just a little bit weird. I don't know. The B-side in general is real scattered. That seems to have been a trend a lot of times, and I don't know, Josh, maybe this was on purpose. Like other than the opening track, like I guess the way albums they used to cut them, a lot of the B-side stuff would be a little bit more varied, right? Like that was kind of done by design.
Yeah, it's just not. I would say at this point they're just trying to get hits with Gary, and so the B side's probably just a lot of filler.
Yeah, just stuffing whatever they can on it. This is not a bad song though. Like compared to some of the ones that don't work as well. I don't take any issue with this. I'm just a little confused by it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. That's another one that I probably won't think about again.
What's next here? Lonesome Highway? No, wait a minute.
No, we said that last time. We were thinking of
Well, I
something
said it.
else.
I'll give you a break. It was on me. We were trying to think of the song Lost Highway, but apparently I was feeling lonesome because I said Lonesome Highway.
I'm pretty sure that's something else too, but we should be able to remember this because it's the David Lynch movie too, and
Right.
may this song might resemble that one a little bit. It was written by Leon Payne, but most people know it as a Hank Williams song, and that's one of my favorite Hank songs, and I think this is a better version of a Hank song than Honky Tonkin' off the last one. I don't hate it as much as other people, but Gary's voice sounds a little ragged here. The instrumentation's a little hokey. It's a better Hank rendition, but from the accounts that we've read about Gary doing Hank songs, I'm sure he could have done this one better.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is we're talking about Hank Williams and we're talking about Gary Stewart. I mean, that should be a gold mine. You put those two things together and in Jimmy's book, he even talks about how often Gary would start singing Hank Williams songs and it would just blow him away. And yeah, so I mean, maybe if you lacked all that context and you just listened to this flat and you said, okay, well, here's a Hank song. I'm always happy to hear this song. I agree. It's one. I think it might be my favorite Hank Williams song or up there. But yeah, it's just kind of like there's not a lot of energy in this, which is odd.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny that Hank didn't write that song. I don't think I ever realized that because, they called him the Hillbilly Shakespeare. I think he wrote most of his songs, but yeah,
Yeah.
I would listen to it, but it's not, you know, I mean, I've heard Tom Petty cover this and a lot of people. That's good. It could have been a lot better, but it exists and I don't hate it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. I wish I could hear maybe a live version of it where Gary brings a little more energy to it. And I'm sure they did do it live. I bet. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah, he played it at a house or trailer party or something.
I'd like to hear it in that setting. That's
Yeah, me too. But that takes us to the last track, which is track 10, One More. And this is written by Gary Stewart and our friend Boogie Bob Melton. And now we've got a Boogie Bob Pin song to close out the album. I like this one quite a bit. And, RCA got their drinking song. I find this one to be a little underrated. I don't agree with Jimmy here. And Gary's voice is great. I think it's a great honky tonker.
yeah. Got one more drinking song, as it turned out. Um, yeah, I think Bob. I mean, thanks to Bob, I must say, he sent us one of his CDs, and plan to dig into that real soon. But I got a couple drinking songs on there, and I mean, I think he could write them pretty well.
Too much dronky?
Yeah, too much Stronky. That's right. If y'all don't know that one, go look it up. But yeah, I mean, one, it's just cool to see a Gary and Bob song on an album like this because uh, even though they played together live a lot, there weren't a lot of necessarily studio recordings from RCA where we see Bob make an appearance, and so I appreciate that quite a bit. And I do like this song actually. I think it's a good honky tonker and a good way to close the record. Like the bookends of this album work out pretty well as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I don't hate this album. It's got a lot of high notes on here, and so it's worth listening for sure. There's some just magical songs, and I agree. I think after talking to Bob, I didn't realize he had written as much, and going through and looking at some of the stuff Bob has written, he was also a great writer, and he said he had some other stuff with Gary he never finished. I wish he could have, but unfortunately, a lot of their songs together didn't get recorded. We have Honky Tonk Man, which I mean I will talk about it right now because it's not on an album. But if you've never heard Honky Tonk Man, that might be one of the best Gary Stewart songs ever. And it kind of, as much as Little Junior is, that's just about as autobiographical of one as I can think. And yeah, that's a shame that one wasn't on something because it shows that they could work as good as Gary and Bill Eldridge together. They really wrote some good stuff.
Is that one we found out on YouTube?
It is on YouTube. It was released as a single, but it was never put on a record. I don't know why. It's a great one. There's another one that I think you're probably thinking about that Bob's put on YouTube. I'd have to go look up the name of it, but it's Bob singing and Gary's actually doing background, which he
That's
didn't
right.
really ever do.
That's right. Yeah, Bob told us about that one, I believe.
Yeah, and that's also a fantastic song.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice way to end this album, I must say. And again, I mean, shout out to Bob. I mean, yeah, I agree. We didn't realize that a very underrated songwriter, and I'm glad he appeared here.
Yeah, I agree. It's a nice ending for us and exciting to see Bob come up, and I think Jimmy was a little harsh on it. Oh, well, not harsh. He said it seemed a little unfinished. I don't think so.
I do wonder too, just think about Jimmy. He worked on that book by his own words for some 30 years or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I I can imagine hearing this album. I don't know, Josh, we got the benefit of hindsight and we also didn't know Gary the way he did. So like maybe it helps that we've been listening to all these together and we're almost doing this sort of retrospective and everything's a little bit different. Like if you had heard this album when it first came out, maybe it would have been more curious. It's like hard to know the context there, but also that's just music, right? Like one of those songs that we didn't really care much for, somebody came out and said it was one of their favorites, and that's like the second time we've had that happen with the track that we didn't find very remarkable. So, I mean, that's one of the joys of it, I guess, is it works for some folks.
Yeah, I agree. And, part of it too is perspective where Jimmy has heard a lot of the tapes of unreleased stuff. And I think he's judging this a little based on other stuff that's out there, what Gary could have done or existed, which I wish I could hear. So I understand that. But
Yeah,
he
true.
says to wrap this up, this would be Gary's last RCA album with Roy Day. RCA had grown. There were a lot more people involved in operations. The New Yorkers starting coming in, sitting there, paying attention, passing judgment. He claimed even the accountants were telling you what type of songs to cut. Day noticed that songs on which Jerry Bradley owned the publishing were getting preferential treatment, whether good or bad. I have heard also rumors of financial improprieties uncovered by Roy and an RCA promotion man, but they remain unconfirmed. Day was also saddened by the way RCA treated Chet Atkins at the end. Roy worshipped Chet and his wife Dolores, and Roy felt they just kind of shuffled him out. A whole bunch of stuff went on that people don't know about, said Day, comparing it to the fall of Rome. There were other things going on in RCA that didn't have anything to do with Gary, Day said, adding that certain people didn't like me for my stand making ways. I thought the tide had turned on me then. He suspected that some of Gary's later records weren't promoted because he was already in the doghouse on these other issues. I had to be made to look bad, in other words, not have hit records. Paranoia, we may never know. I had intended to sit down and discuss it further with him one day, but Roy passed before that could happen. In any case, Roy was removed as Stewart's producer and not long after was shown the door. I told Jerry you'll have to fire me because I won't quit. And that's exactly what happened. He was a producer and he wasn't producing any hit records, not just on Gary, but other people, said Bradley matter of factly. Gary Stewart's biggest champion RCA was history. He may not have understood the weirder, raggedy edges of Gary's talent, but he had harnessed the Stewart whirlwind in a way that no one else had or would again. Chaos ahead.
Weird ending to that saga, no doubt.
Yeah, it's sad, but they had an awesome run there. But I think Roy will make his way back around.
Oh yeah. Yeah. RCA, we're other than, lobbying them to release the tapes, we're done with them for a little while, I guess.
We're not done with RCA West.
Oh man, I keep trying to say we're done with
You're
RCA.
thinking of Roy.
You're
No,
right. You're right.
Gary
Sorry.
stayed on RCA for I think we're gonna talk about at least two more records. I think one was an EP, but yeah, this is not Gary's last RCA.
Yeah, you got to keep me honest. I got to. I'm mad at RCA because they won't release some of the stuff that we know's out there.
The non-existing RCA.
I'm still mad.
Yeah, we have two more RCA records after this.
All right. All right.
One of which we'll talk about, one of which we will not, unless you're for some reason wanting to, which I think I don't want to.
Oh, we got those records. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Nah, we probably won't talk about that.
Yeah, but anyways, I don't have any much else to say about Gary. What about you, Wes?
Nah, not really. I think overall it's like a we don't rate albums, so I'm not gonna go in that direction, but I'll just say like it's probably the weakest we've covered yet, but there's still some gold mines on it. So that's just how I feel really about most scary albums.
Yeah, I agree. It's maybe one of the. It definitely is the weakest of the discography so far, and as Day said, I've just seen the Rock of Ages might be one of Gary's best or best songs. So
Yep.
you never know.
Works for me.
Yeah, still got stuff here to listen to. So, anyways, until next time, this is Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes. I'm Josh.
And I'm Wes.
Adios.
Sayonara.